In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this Wonder Twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Welcome, everybody, to the new and improved podcast, Tomorrow's Legends, covering the new DC TV show, Legends of Tomorrow. I am the Flash.
And this is Harley Quinn.
Harley, did you hear that?
Hear what? I'm just kidding.
That awesome intro.
It was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Were they talking? Was that you and me they were talking about?
I don't know.
Wow,
I don't know if I can live up to that pressure. Tomorrow's Legends.
That was awesome. I need to say thank you to one of my best friends in the world, Dan Caverly, down at Quintex Entertainment in little tiny town Nelson, BC, Canada, for putting that together for us. That is a very cool and fun intro. I was so excited when I heard that.
Me too. It was great.
And I also need to say thank you to my friend Kim for doing up our little title graphics, the Tomorrow's Legends, with our little pictures on there in our little costumes.
It's pretty awesome. If you haven't seen it, well, if you're listening to it in iTunes, you might have seen it. But
They will see it on our new...
yeah, check it out.
Yeah, they'll see it on our new Facebook page and everything. So thank you to Kim and to Dan for helping us get this thing going, and we totally appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for tuning in. We are so excited. We have finally got everything set up. iTunes, new website, new Facebook page. It's all going. Harley, I am excited. How about you?
I'm super excited. This is really awesome. It took a lot of time, but it looks really good, I think. I think it looks really cool.
Considering it's our first go at it, yeah, I think it's coming together nicely. It looks really nice.
Oh yeah, and we're complete amateurs at it. Yes, it looks great.
But thanks everybody for being patient with us while we fiddled and tried to figure it all out. I think we got it going, so we'll continue to tweak and tune it as we go. But anyway, we are proud of it and can't wait to bring you guys all to it. And we definitely hope it brings in lots more feedback too. Let us know what you think.
We want your theories.
Yeah. So, and exactly, speaking of feedback, because we now have a new Facebook page, Tomorrow's Legends, that will be a group page, and we would love you guys to get on there and create the same kind of community that we have going on in Aero Squad and the CCU. And so talk to us in there, bring in your theories, your feelings, your thoughts, whatever's going on. And you can also still continue to send feedback into the cybercastfan@gmail.com to get a hold of us, or send in what Harley loves is voicemails.
Yes, I want to hear your voices.
Actually, I do too. I'm with her right there.
That's less we have to read.
Yes, but also because we have a new Lipson blog page, which hosts all of our audio now, there is also a comment section on there as well. So there you go. Lots of places to reach us.
Yeah, we have a lot of options.
And then the other thing we wanted to make sure to let you guys know, especially for any new listeners that are coming on board, we record on Friday nights because Legends of Tomorrow airs Thursdays. So we record Friday nights, usually later in the evening. That gives you at least a day and a bit to get us feedback in about the current episode for that week. But if you wanted to send us in your thoughts and feelings from last week's episode, or you listened to our previous week's podcast and you have ideas and things about what we had talked about, for sure send that in at any time, and we will also discuss that. Because what we're thinking on doing is, for each episode, any feedback that we get for the previous week's release, we will talk about that first. And then, like Aero Squad and Central City do, if we get feedback in about the current show that we were discussing, we will save that for the end. After we've done our thing, we will then talk about your feedback. Sound good, Harley?
That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, let's get to this. We are doing Season 1, Episode 5, titled Fail Safe. How'd you feel about this one?
Oh, it was good. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it was
I
part 2, right? Part 2 to a
That's true.
two-parter, so.
Yeah, and it definitely had that feel to it. So it was very exciting. I thought, I mean, there's a lot of action going on. There's just a lot going on, which it wasn't a bad thing. It didn't feel like it was disjointed to me. It was just exciting. It was fast paced. I really enjoyed it. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. To me, it had this dark sense of dread that somebody's not going to survive or make it out of this episode. There was this
Ooh,
tension
yeah.
constantly. They really, right from the get-go, gave you that feeling, and it was such a great way to continue after last week. Well done, well-rounded episode.
Oh yeah, I agree.
A point I wanted to make, because I've been, we both watch Arrow and Flash and listen to both podcasts for those shows, and what's going on in all the discussions on those two shows is all the theories about the mysteries on each show, because each show has one or two very big mysteries that they're dealing with, and it's driving the theories through the roof.
Right.
Looking at Legends right now, it doesn't really have anything like that. There really isn't a big mystery. It,
No, I would agree that there's not a mystery at all. It's all about, I mean, it's not a mystery. I mean, the mission is what it is. It's to stop Vandal Savage.
right, right.
So, I mean, I'm trying to think back for Flash season one. I mean, there's still more mystery, but I guess ultimately that we had to stop the man in the yellow suit. I mean, the reverse Flash.
Hmm.
And then Arrow season one. It's been a few years since I've watched that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if it was just an objective, like if we were after a certain villain. And so maybe in season two, they would introduce more mystery like they've done with the other shows.
Well, I mean, we didn't know who Malcolm Merlin was for a little while, so that could have been the
That's true.
mystery. But
Oh,
yeah.
that's true. Who is the Black Archer?
But then again, I mean, Legends it's a different show. They're really trying to find a different style for it. So yeah,
True.
maybe there won't ever be a mystery. We know what the point of the show is, and it's just different ways of going about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But before we go on, I almost forgot. We also need to send a big thanks to Tony and Joe over at Central City once again, because I listened to the podcast today and they mentioned us again at the end of it. So that was very appreciated.
Yay.
Thanks for your support, guys. Hopefully we can get you guys to tune in to listen to us, because I'd love to hear what you guys think of our show.
Yes, we will take any sort of constructive comments
Yeah.
you can give to us.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will. Okay, I will. Flash won't.
Okay.
Or maybe we should have that opposite. I guess it's less in my nature to take criticism. Anyway.
Exactly. So back to Legends this episode here. How's that beginning of the episode? Like right off the bat, you see Stein scribbling away on the chalkboard, and he's working with Cisco.
I know. I was almost taken aback because I was like, what is happening? Is this a flashback? Is he hallucinating? I didn't know what was going on. And then once you kind of see him interact with Cisco and you see how Cisco is acting, I was like, no, 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 no. You need to stop talking. Stop doing stuff. You're telling them what they need to know.
Exactly. I mean, I was just surprised to see Cisco there, because I had no idea he was having a cameo on this show.
I didn't either.
So that was fun, and then yeah, like you said, it just after a couple minutes, I'm like, wait a second, that's not Cisco. It doesn't seem like him at all.
No, the way he was dressed, the way he was acting. I mean, kudos to the actor. His name just totally escaped me.
Oh,
Car
Carlos.
Yeah,
I can't. Yeah.
I mean, he's just played three different versions of his character within like a 3 episode arc. Because he was evil him on Earth 2. He's normal Cisco, and then now he's some crazy Russian scientist trying to play Cisco.
It's got to be fun for him too to get to
Oh, I
do that.
bet.
So you mentioned something about the Bratva. Is that how you pronounce it?
Oh,
The
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
the Bratva.
Go on with that.
This is our Russian tie-in from Arrow. The Bratva is the Russian mob, And if we remember, this is the payoff I've been waiting for in Arrow for this season, because we know that Diana, is it her? I think her name's Diana, whatever. She's Russian. And we know at some point he joins the Bratva because he uses those ties in either season 1 or season 2, or maybe both, to get things accomplished. But we never see how he gets inducted or accepted. So I just thought that was really cool that they brought that in.
Right.
It was just a nice tie-in to kind of tie the two shows together loosely.
I didn't pick up on that while I was watching. I completely missed that. I just thought it was 1980s Russia. So yeah, no, that was cool. A good catch there, Harley.
Yeah, I will say that for whatever reason, again, it's another minor storyline in Arrow, but it's kind of captivated me. Like, of all of the flashbacks, the Bratva is the one I'm the most interested in, and it's the one we've not gotten to.
Yeah.
So that's why I was hoping that there would be a payoff in this season, but so far it's not looking like it.
Not yet. Maybe next season.
Yeah. Anyway.
There's one big thing that, from all the talking in all the different Facebook pages and the feedback and everything, this seems to be everyone's singular favorite part of the show, or favorite quote or line of dialogue, was good old Captain Cold as they're gathering the troops to set out on their mission. And they were talking about, or I think it was Sara that was going over the directions on how they're going to break into the prison.
Yeah.
And what does Captain Cold say? This isn't my first prison break.
So great. That was so fantastic.
And he said it so cool, and so the smirk on his face as he was saying it, and even for a few seconds after he was done, you knew he enjoyed saying that line.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some like gag reel somewhere where he says it and just like busts out laughing.
Yeah.
It's just so perfect. It's like you can't not take that opportunity.
No. And I like, there's a lot of TV shows that are doing that now, doing little call outs or shout outs to previous shows that they may have come over from and stuff. So it's kind of cool that they're acknowledging Wentworth's long season running show that he did. So.
Well, and Dominic Purcell too. They were
both
both on there. Yeah,
exactly. Both.
funny.
And it's kind of funny that they are having to break them out of prison.
I know. It's so
was
great.
pretty cool. All right, and your next point.
Oh,
Tough choice. Let's hear what you have to say here. What kind of tough choice do we have come up?
well, so Sara has been tasked with killing Dr. Stein should they not be able to rescue him.
Right.
And I mean, that's a very, very hard choice to have to make. And I like, and we can get into this a little bit later because we talk about it a little bit more, but I liked that it was Captain Cold that was the voice of reason.
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically saying, this is not an easy decision to make. I don't understand why you're not questioning this kind of thing. I don't know. How did you feel about this whole conundrum with proposing that Sara was, the failsafe to kill Dr. Stein?
Well,
if they couldn't save him.
That's where I found, because Sara just seemed very quick to agree with it. I thought it was a very easy decision for her to make, and I guess that kind of harkens back to her still having this bloodlust a little bit, or the fact that she worked with the League of Assassins for so long that she just understands that, hey, if that's what's got to be done, that's what has to be done. Do it, get over it, move on to the next thing. There's no point dwelling on it. This is what needs to be done. So
that's how I took it.
Yeah, and I guess Rip probably understands that and knows that about her. That's why he went to her about it. So it still kind of gave you, I guess, a little bit of a cringe, because you're like, what? She's agreeing that fast to kill one of her own team members, and it's not like Stein is a bad guy that everyone's having trouble with. He's like loved by everyone, and he's kind of like the father figure of the group. So that's where it stung a little to hear her just say, yeah, sure, kill him if I have to. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really put a cap on that. That was well stated.
Now, what's this thing you're talking about, the Looper again? I need you to go into a little bit more detail there, because you're referring to the movie Looper, which I loved, but I wasn't picking up on where you in our notes here, you're connecting Looper to this episode.
Yeah, so so my notes kind of go chronologically through the episode, which for this episode, probably I think it's okay that we go chronologically because it was really just one big mission.
Sure.
But
Hey, the other podcasts jump all over the place, so why not have one that goes in order for a
that goes in
change?
order. That's a good point.
Not that we do, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So the part that reminded me of Looper is when they're trying to communicate with Dr. Stein and let him know that they're coming, so that he can hold out a little bit longer and hopefully not put himself in a situation where Sarah's going to have to kill him. So when she started carving into his arm and then Dr. Stein sees it, that in Looper, the person, that hasn't been to the future, he carves in his arm, they carve in his arm something to get the
Oh,
attention of the future person who's come back and escaped. So
okay.
they're what did they call them? I guess their loop. They called it closing their loop, but I don't
Right.
remember how they referred to the person that was running around. But
Okay. Now I guess where you're going.
that's what reminded me of it. And there's always a lot of little tie-ins. I find it really interesting that they're having tie-ins to all these different movies that treat time travel all a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of meshing them all together in a way. I
They
mean,
do.
granted, this didn't have to do with time travel. It just got me thinking along that line.
No, nice. Now I understand where you got that from, and it makes definite sense for sure. And it
Yeah.
is interesting. They keep pulling little tidbits, as you just said, from different time travel based movies, and they're incorporating all of it. And I think that's what makes it exciting, and it also makes us wonder, wow, which rules are they actually following?
Exactly. I mean, I think they're just pulling from I mean, they're making it up as they go because everybody makes up time travel as you go because it's not real. But they're instead of sticking with something that it's kind of almost like tried and true or, has been done before with success,
Hmm.
I feel like they're mixing some of the things together, which is interesting. And so far, they've been able to keep everything straight. And that's what I just want to make sure that they continue doing throughout the season because anything they screw up in this show, they could potentially screw up other shows technically.
Because they are all interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing I've been saying about having time travel in the Flash, where Barry goes back and resets like a day. I mean, they
Hmm.
seem to address it pretty well, but at the same time, I'm like, there could be ramifications there that reverberate throughout the universe. But
No, it's a good point because it is a shared universe, a shared DC TV universe. So, I mean,
yeah.
they're even bringing Supergirl in now, so they got 4 shows they have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and I am not watching Supergirl, so those tie-ins are going to be lost on me.
You might watch one episode though, because Flash is going to visit it.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll definitely watch that
Yeah.
episode.
So the one thing that I thought was cool when Rip was explaining to Sarah why she has to do what she has to do with possibly killing Stein, when he got Gideon to show her the possible future,
Mhm.
that scene, it was kind of a jaw-dropping scene when they showed all of the Russian firestorms flying around and just shooting their bolts of flame and just destruction on a massive scale. That was a pretty scary possible future.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
I mean, could you imagine, even just imagine that in real life? I mean, there's been a lot of movies that are, what if scenarios, but
Hmm.
it's just crazy to have one superpower rise up with that type of potential power, I guess, really is what I'm trying to say. And it,
Yeah, and that just kind of dominates and takes over everything and
yeah,
totally destroys the world.
yeah. So for me, it was just it was a jaw-dropping, hold my breath scene when you see all the different firestorms flying around and just taking shots at whatever it was.
It was well done. I liked that they put that in there. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So we got our next point here. We are enjoying Captain Cold. He is
He's my
quite a
favorite.
character. He's your favorite right now?
Right now, he
Yeah.
really is. He has the best lines. His quotes are always spot on. I just
Well, you have
I
one
love
right here,
him.
don't you?
Well, I do. This was the one where, so back to when Sarah was proposed to kill Dr. Stein, and I was saying he was the voice of reason. He was saying, I don't want you to forget who we're talking about, because the way that Sarah was speaking, she was speaking it as if this is my next mark. I need to kill him because if he does, or, if he doesn't make it, I need to kill him. So
Hmm.
she wasn't even thinking of him as Dr. Stein as a part of the team. She was just thinking of him as a loose end that needed to be eliminated. And so I thought it was almost ironic that it was Captain Cold that is the one that has to remind her, hey, maybe you should think twice about pulling that trigger because of who it is on the other end. This isn't just some Joe Schmo you were sent to kill, it's Martin Stein.
It is interesting having Cold being the guy to keep her in check.
Yeah,
You
both,
know.
both him and Heatwave had interesting, how do I want to say this? Their humanity came through in interesting ways
Yeah,
this
and
episode.
we're definitely going to talk a little more in depth about them later on in our other notes we have here. But what I liked at this point in the storyline is I like Cold's devotion to Heatwave, like the friendship and the partnership that he holds higher than anything else. He won't turn
Hmm.
his back on his buddy that's been there for him, even though they've had rough, they don't always agree, they butt heads a lot. It doesn't matter. That's been his partner for a long, long time. And I
Hmm.
really appreciated that loyalty of and brotherhood, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though he was turning his back on the rest of the team to go say, I mean, but that's how it is.
Yeah, so he had to kind of turn his back on the rest of the team to go and save Heatwave, but then in turn, Heatwave wasn't willing to kind of sell out Ray Palmer and just leave him behind. He was like,
Sure.
no, he's got to come too.
Yeah, well, let's dive right
Just,
into that one. Yeah, because
yeah.
this point we're trying to make is about Heatwave growing a bit of a conscience,
Hmm.
and yes, he did because we've so far seen him as just being this big brute who
Hmm.
just wants to burn things and make money. So we didn't think there was much to him, and yet they're starting to show there's some depth to him. He has a bit of a personality. He does have a sense of loyalty. I don't know if you can call it compassion, but
I think loyalty said it best because that's really what it is. That's what he and Captain Cold feel for each other. And then because of the situations of this episode,
mhm,
he now feels the same for Ray, or at
true.
least
Well,
insofar as he needs to get him out.
yeah. Well, I guess honor is another word that I was trying to think
Honor,
of.
that's a good word too.
Because I mean, Heatwave. Maybe he's always had that in him. It's just been hidden under the tough guy shell.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible.
Because he was trying to teach a lesson to Ray Palmer.
Hmm.
Like, listen, buddy, you need this beat down. I think he said something like that. You need this beat down in order for you to understand how the prison operates on the inside. And until you get that beat down, you're just not getting it. It's what he was basically trying to say.
Yeah, well, because he's in prison and he's trying to make friends, and you can't do that in prison. It's a different world, and
It's a
Ray's trying to be his charming, smarmy self, and
yeah,
he's not listening to the one person who's actually been in that situation that that they're currently in.
and has all the experience exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of deferring, he's like, oh, no, no, I know best. People are always nice and you just have to treat them with respect. And I'm like, buddy, you're in a different world. You're in a different country.
Yeah.
The rules don't apply.
But I do like that Palmer, he's not letting go of that compassion and charm that he has. He's not
It's
going to
true.
turn into a bad guy. You stand up for what you believe in, and he is doing that. So I also appreciate that. And it doesn't matter what kind of a person Heatwave is. Ray Palmer considers him part of the team,
Hmm.
no matter what. And that's when he stepped in when they were being hung up by those chains and getting electrocuted. He took the torture for him. I can't remember what it was he said, but he directed the guy with it looked like a hammer in his hand.
Yeah.
He directed it to get the shots taken out on him instead,
Hmm.
thus, saving Heatwave from having to be punished. And that was a huge, huge deal to Heatwave,
Yeah. That's
you know.
ultimately what saves Ray's life.
Yeah,
Otherwise, he would have left him behind,
he would
I'm
have
pretty
left him
sure.
behind. So
Yeah.
It was just a really, really great sequence through the entire episode to see the two of them, in the most unconventional way find a way to bond and,
Hmm.
consider each other, I guess you could say friends and teammates. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite parts of this episode.
Yeah, and it was well done, I thought. I liked the way they approached it. Aside from there were times when I felt Ray was being uncharacteristically dumb.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know how smart you are, but you cannot tell me you are this dumb when it comes to street smarts.
It makes
It,
it
you
makes you
know,
wonder, but I mean, was he always sheltered? Because he's just been a rich billionaire. Uh, I don't remember what kind of family he's come from, but has he just been sheltered from the real world for too long? Maybe
I guess.
that he just doesn't have this, or he's just been successful in being the happy-go-lucky, smiling guy, pat you on the back. Hey, we're all buddies here. Maybe that's worked for him everywhere else in life, and this is the first time that it's failed him.
Technically, it's the second time. He tried that with crazy nuclear physicist lady to pick her up, and that was not that
That's
was
true.
not going his
Well,
way.
he's two left feet when it comes to flirting with women anyway, so
Well, that's true.
yeah.
He's all in his head. But
Now there was something you were saying here about the structure of the show, how you seem to think they've been switching it up a little bit.
yeah, and I might have alluded to this a few minutes ago, but
That's why I wanted to bring it back.
yeah, so sometimes it's we've got things in teams. So like I think it was an episode two where it was very clear cut like what team what we were seeing the story for. And then
Hmm.
in episode that must have been episode three. So episode four, it wasn't as cut and dry. I mean, there were clear almost like missions, but it wasn't like this episode where it went from like one thing to the next to the next. It this week actually flowed, whereas last week it felt like there were a couple of different missions for a couple of different teams of people almost, but it wasn't as clear cut as it was the week before. So they're kind of I feel like they're mixing up the structure, which I think is really the only way to do it with as big of a cast as they have and not get it feeling repetitive
Hmm.
and cookie cutter. Because if they do the same thing week in and week out, we're gonna get sick of it.
Very true. Well, the way I described it, I put in quotes here, I said it felt like it was an individual team effort.
That's a good way to put it.
Because really that's what I mean. They're each person was wanting to save a single other person, but it took the entire team doing all of that together to be able to pull it off. So it
Yeah.
was that's the best way I could describe it, an individual team effort. But they also this was kind of the first episode where Kendra was kind of the backstory. She wasn't really involved in a lot of it this time. She wasn't part of the main story,
No, she wasn't at all.
which I thought was okay because it allowed the others to get more story time because we have had a lot devoted to Kendra and Carter.
Right, we
So
have.
now they kind of reverse that, and I like that. And I also loved one of my favorite action sequences, well, sort of action sequences, was in the Russian sauna, which I thought was funny because you've got Captain Cold and Rip Hunter with the one big Russian, and neither of them are really wanting to fight him until Rip finally does, and he's having a struggle with it. And meanwhile, Sarah's in the other room, 1 against 6,
Yes.
and she's taking them all down. And I just loved when she finally comes through the door, and she's like, "What? You guys can't handle one? I just beat up 6 of them. What the heck?"
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah.
Like another funny thing was when Jax was like, Barry Allen who?
Yeah.
Just keep it with the funny quotes theme. That cracked me up.
The funny little insults that are bouncing from show to show. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, that was kind of like Flash's
Uh,
who's the best hacker in the world?
yep.
Felicity Smoke.
Felicity Smoke. Although I'm going to defend Barry because hey, he's a Flash. Flash has got to stick together. It took Jackson 12 seconds to run across that yard, and he's trying to make a crack at Barry. Barry would have been there in point 12 seconds. Like,
I know. I
really,
know.
really, Jackson, who are you trying to make fun of here? Because that took you a long time in Flash's world.
And you probably wouldn't have blown out his knee either. Just saying.
Just.
Poor kid.
Uh,
guess we won't have him do that again.
Probably not. Yeah, unless they should have some future technology on that ship to fix his knee so it's good as new.
That's true. Well, that'll be interesting. I wonder if they can really just completely fix it and get rid of the issue. That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll see.
Guess we'll see. So Captain Cold to the rescue. What scene were you referring to here?
Oh, yeah, we really are jumping around all over the place. I probably should have organized this a little bit better.
That's all right.
But I mean, it's following the scenes of the episode. But yeah, so this is when Captain Cold comes in and he's basically like rescuing everybody. Or well, I mean, he's rescuing Heatwave, I guess. I don't think I was really going anywhere with that.
Just made a point that
yeah, again, it's funny to me that it's Captain Cold that is almost made out to be the hero of all of these people. To me, I feel like he's actually the more heroic of all of them.
and he's been the least likely. Like from the get-go, you would have thought he's the least likely to step
Yeah.
up to be the hero. Yeah. No,
For as much as he always says he's in it for himself, I mean, he was the one who reminded Sara of her humanity and is probably, without him saying that, I think that's the reason she didn't pull the trigger, is he had kind of gotten in her head, and then he was coming through her comms again saying, don't do this.
Right.
Don't need to kill him.
Right.
And then he goes in and immediately starts looking for Heatwave, and then doesn't back down, or he backs down enough to get Ray out of there. He's not on board with it originally, but he's at the same time not going to leave him either, I don't think. So
No. The one thing that I did have a bit of a disappointment with was I was hoping for more of a standoff between Heatwave and that one Russian guard. I can't remember what the Russian guard's name was, but him and Heatwave were quite at odds with each other.
yeah.
They were building between the two episodes. They were building up an expected climactic fight between the two of them, and I was looking forward to that. I was like, "Come on, Heatwave, you're gonna get your chance. You're gonna take this guy down. Burn him, beat on him, whatever it is you're gonna do. Your chance is coming." And then it doesn't. All that happens, they kind of run into him in the, all hell's breaking loose in the prison. Everyone's escaping, running, fighting each other. And they kind of just run into him, and he just kind of shoulder checks him into the cell with one of the other prisoners, and locks the gate or the cell door, and walks away.
Yeah, but
And
at the same time, he was trying to get Ray out.
yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, he was a little bit incapacitated to really have a decent fight, but I was still wanting better revenge. So.
Yeah, especially because they had that line in the previous episode. So maybe that'll come back again, because I think that guard, isn't he one of the immortal ones? Or I guess they're not technically immortal, but his life was like prolonged.
Yeah, I don't remember. Sure.
I can't remember either. I thought it might have been, but maybe not.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just, like I said, just a little let down at that point, because they had built it up to be a good clash between the two of them, and then there was nothing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we did.
But anyway, so moving on.
Yeah, this is the point where we actually run into Vandal Savage for
Yes.
the first time in this episode.
And it was good to see him. I was happy because we've gone for a little bit without him, and I don't, as much as we don't want every episode to be all about him and them trying to catch him, we also don't want to go too long without him, because he's kind of the binding story arc here. So
yeah, exactly. So it was good to see him back. With him, this isn't, I mean, I guess it's related. I am really just stuck on this whole self-fulfilling prophecy thing where Rip has basically like doomed his wife and child to death, because I mean, I think they're doomed to die anyway. I think that's one of those things that cannot change about the storyline.
right.
But it's like, he even went so far this episode. Last episode, they got the watch. He mentions his son's name. And then you're like, oh, why would you do that? And then this time, he tells him who he is. And then Vandal Savage somehow knows the name of his wife. How did he find that out? Was that written in the watch?
It possibly could have. I'm not sure.
because he named them both, and I was like, we did
Mm.
not previous. He said Miranda and Jonas, and we did not previously know her name. So unless he's become clairvoyant, I
Where
don't
does
know how he knows the
where does Vandal
name.
get it from? Yeah, well, if anyone happened to notice that we're missing there, let us know, because yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you caught that,
Uh,
I did not, and I would like to
mm,
know because I don't know if that was maybe just a little bit of a slip on the writer's part or what,
mm.
but
Yeah, it's
it's
interesting.
yeah, so I keep getting stuck on that. And then they had this great quote, of course. It just says, "I want you to see the world burn." And
Yeah.
that just I all every time there's a quote that is in any way similar to the Dark Knights, some men just want to watch the world burn. That's like my favorite quote in one of my favorite movies, so it always sticks with me. I don't know. What did you have any other thoughts on Savage
I
or
just I
theories or
liked how, I mean, for the little bit that he was in it, I liked how it showed how devoted and loyal the Russians were to him. And it makes me
Mhm.
wonder, I had to think back how many years has he been working with them now at that point? I'm not sure, but man, did they were willing to die for him, willing to do anything for him. And
That's
that to
true.
me is a scary thing, when because it doesn't seem to matter where he goes, he is garnering that type of loyalty from his followers, and
Hmm.
that's something to worry about, because if as his army, I guess, is getting larger and larger with that many people devoted like that, it's going to be
Hmm.
even more difficult to take him down in the future, sure.
Yeah, well, hopefully we manage to take some of them out because,
What, by blowing up the whole prison?
well, well, we did blow up the whole prison sort of inadvertently. I don't think that was intentional, but it worked.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rip throws a bomb and I guess we assume he blows up Savage. That's what I assumed. Did you get that same feeling?
Yeah, well, that's I because we don't see what happened to him after that. You just see him with kind of getting engulfed by the flames.
Yeah, and we know he can't die, of course, so I guess that was just their way to slow him down so they could get out of the prison.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been told that he can regenerate from a single cell. So blow him up, he becomes body parts and ashes or whatever. Then I guess that's still enough for him. I don't know if someone has to help him
Yeah.
regenerate, or he just does. I'm kind of picturing in my mind like Terminator 2, the Liquid Terminator. Does he just slowly reform all back together?
Oh,
And
yeah.
like a maybe they'll show us that, maybe they won't. I don't know, but yeah, I
That'd be an
guess
interesting question to see answered. It's not the first time we've seen him in ashes before
no,
either,
yeah,
so
and we didn't see how he came back from that either. So
no, we didn't. We just
yeah,
have to assume that someone found a way.
yeah,
Well, we assume Malcolm Merlin found the way, is what we're led to believe. But
that's what they showed us. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, speaking of blowing things up, a
Hmm.
nuclear bomb, that's a pretty effective way to take out a lot of your enemies all at once. I mean, we know Savage can't die, but in theory, a nuclear blast,
Should have
we
gotten rid of
should
everybody
have
else.
we should have killed everybody else. So we shouldn't see any repeats because all of the cronies that we've seen were at that prison.
That's true. Good
So
point.
that'll be a continuity error if we see someone else because I don't think they're immortal. I think only Savage is immortal.
Yeah, so they may have just that should be the end of the Russian element of the
Yeah,
storyline right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the end of. I would assume it's the end of Valentina, the crazy nuclear physicist. I think her name
Yep.
was Valentina.
Yeah. I would assume so too, because she was right in the middle of it. So
Well, she was the exploding man.
yeah, well, yeah, that's what I meant.
Woman
I meant she was
exploding
like the
man.
center of it, the center of the impact and everything.
Oh,
So
yes,
there should be nothing left of her anyway, because she's the one that blew up. But
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
well, speaking of that, like I was with her exploding, was was that just us? Because we saw the similar thing happen to Martin Stein in The Flash when he separated from Ronnie Raymond. He started showing the blue flames and he started becoming unstable, but that seemed to go over the course of days. And yet with her, it happened in a matter of minutes. So was it just a sped up version of what happened to Stein, or is she missing? Is there some element missing that she didn't have, say, what Stein had being at Star Labs to help keep him stable? Was she missing something where
Oh, yeah.
it was just a quick reaction, you know, like I separated, we weren't supposed to separate, we separated, and I can't stay stable. Boom.
Yeah, no, they didn't have the splicer. Remember, she never made it.
Okay,
She got
refresh my mind because the splicer was mentioned in the episode a couple times, and I was like, what are they talking about? Splicer? Why am I forgetting?
yes. So the splicer, so on when you see Firestorm and he's like flying around, you know how he has that like black thing
Oh,
with
the
like the
chest
three.
piece.
Yes,
The chest. Okay,
that's
you
the
know what? I forgot
splicer.
they were calling it the splicer. My bad.
Yeah, that's what keeps them stable. It's called
Okay.
a quantum splicer. So
Ah, that's
that's
where
what's
I
keeping them
lost it.
stable. Yeah, so Stein, he wrote all that out and showed them all that information. And then basically, then after that, she figured out who Stein was because she saw his arm.
Right.
And so once she made that connection, she's like, forget this. I'm not going to all the trouble of making this splicer device. We can merge right now. And he's like, no, we can't. It's not stable. It's not safe. You'll kill us both. And then she just grabs him. And
See, and
then,
I think because of that moment, I like Splicer. What are they talking about? Ah, whatever. I just continued on paying attention to the show and was just loving it. So yeah,
yeah. So
thank
that's
you for
kind of,
clearing that up.
yeah.
Now it all makes sense.
Yeah, and I
Totally.
think that's also why Jax was able to kind of almost draw Stein out of her
Hmm.
in a way. So, I mean, that was a little interesting. I mean, basically, I think Stein always has that power, but maybe just didn't know he had the power that he can actually to some degree can control the other half, I
Yeah,
think.
because
That's what it looks like they were doing anyway.
he's kind of the mind out of the
Right.
two. Like he's the mind and Jackson's the body, or Ronnie was
Yeah.
the body. So yeah.
And they've always had more of a partnership where it's been more collaborative. Granted, him and Jax are still working on that,
Hmm.
but him and Ronnie had a very collaborative partnership. So he never, I guess, had to try and exercise that kind of control. But
Right.
given the situation he was in, Jax was able to talk him into that and get him to that stage. And then once he was there, he kind of, I don't know if it was Martin Stein that managed to separate himself or if like Jax somehow drew Stein out of her.
I'm thinking because Stein and Jackson already have that connection. They're I guess on a molecular level they're kind of bonded already. So it maybe had a kind of a magnetic type of attraction that he
Hmm.
got forced into bonding with the Russian woman, and it wasn't a perfect match. So when his perfect match did come close enough, it pulled him away
Hmm.
from her. So I think I'm only guessing that it might have had something to do with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what
I don't know.
still on that scene though, like because I've been kind of picking on Jackson the last couple episodes, but in this one I actually really liked him. I
Okay.
loved his speech. It was a good saving speech, calling out to Stein to get in touch with him and show that type of emotion and maturity. It was just good growth for Jackson
It was.
to say
It's
like,
where we've needed him to get.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really good. But now that we've blown everything up,
Now that we've blown everything up,
apparently we haven't completely ruined the timeline.
not, yeah, apparently not. It's clean and well kept enough that they can celebrate and have a toast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just took the nuclear explosion to basically erase all the other problems that had been caused because all the information about Soviet Firestorm was in theory contained there. So,
Contained all there, and that's what I was questioning.
yeah.
Are did they actually completely not ruin anything because it was all contained within that explosion? So if that's the case, then sure they can walk away from it.
Well, the
And
future didn't change, so that means that at some point Vandal Savage was never able to again figure out the Firestorm Matrix.
yeah, exactly. And that maybe that has something to do with him being in the explosion himself too. Maybe when he gets uh, reincarnated or whatever that is, regenerated,
Hmm.
maybe he forgets a few things too. Maybe every time, maybe if he dies and gets reincarnated, he doesn't get reincarnated with all of his previous knowledge that he's learned.
I don't know. I
I
don't.
don't know.
He never. He was not. He's not a physicist, though. He's not capable of. In my opinion, he's not capable of understanding
So
The
he
fi
had the
to
Russians
reproduce
working
it.
for him. So with it being
Right.
lost, he loses it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because he didn't understand it. He knew he needed it, but he can't reproduce it.
Okay.
He doesn't understand enough of, in my opinion, I would say
Yeah.
he does not understand enough of
Nope.
physics to figure it out.
I'll jump on board that. I like your answer.
All right.
So now, I mean, now the other part of the episode, which was I think the most fun and the most talked about in
The
all the
last
other,
minute.
yeah, like the last minute is what everyone seemed to get so excited about. And they take off on the Wave Rider, the time traveling ship. Of course, here comes Chronos and starts blasting away at them, and he knocks them out of the time warp thingy, time tunnel. And they end up landing in Star City in the year 2046. So
Hmm.
they skipped right over 2016. It was like, what? Wait a second.
They sure did. Because they had no control of where they were going, so they just got knocked out, and it's where they could have landed anywhere. They could have landed in ancient Egypt. They could have landed in 2734, and they just happened to land in
Well, like,
2046.
I guess that depends what the time, because in one respect, I imagine the time tunnel as a tunnel. So the farther you either go down the tunnel to go into the future, or you go backwards in the tunnel to go to the past.
Ah,
So I
but time
thought,
is not linear, Martin.
okay, see, and that's why I guess depending on wherever they wanted to go, so they had no control about where they were falling out of.
That's what I think. I don't think it's a time tunnel. It's like I think of it as limbo where they go.
Okay.
Be, I don't, they described it a little differently. It was in one of the pilot episodes. Um, but basically they're kind of in this like interdimensional limbo where they're not in space and time. They're just sort of chilling in some little bubble. And then they got to figure out what year they want to go to, and then they figure out how to get there. But I don't think it's necessarily a tunnel like a speed tunnel like we've seen
Hmm.
or something
Okay.
like that. Because even though Barry's traveling along a tunnel, he still has to pick the correct exit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be like that, but I think of it more of as kind of an area that's outside of space and time. And then when you figure out where you want to go, you figure out how to re-enter space and time. So you're going to that exact destination.
Okay, nuclear physicist Harley,
I
I'll take your science knowledge and just I'll believe that.
this is where I go a little crazy with the time travel stuff because even though it's not real, I know a lot to be dangerous with. But yeah, we perceive time linearly, but that is not how time functions.
And that part I understand. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So and now the fact that they crashed there, the ship got damaged. Are they now stuck? They are stuck in 2046. Do they have to do repairs before going on?
Well, I guess at least for the next episode, I would say yes. It'd be
Okay.
interesting to see how long we're quote unquote stuck there for.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the city's destroyed.
Yeah, it looked like it. Did
Like
not
they're in
look to be
Star
in good
City.
shape.
It looked like a ruined city, and I mean, recently ruined. It looked like kind of a war zone.
Yeah. So what happened in 30 years?
Well, and see, this comes back to my theory about the timeline speeding up because of them messing around in the past. Remember, we were
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about Vandal Savage gaining all of this new knowledge in back in the past, learning about superpowers, learning about time travel and the Firestorm Matrix and all that. Learning about that stuff farther back in time than he originally would have. Does that speed up? Because originally we see him destroy the world in 2166, but because he's gaining,
Mhm.
they go back in time and accidentally give him access to knowledge he shouldn't have. Does that
Mhm.
speed up the process of him destroying the world because he is learning more, therefore gaining better technology, better whatever it is? Does that speed up the timeline of him destroying the past? So now we are in 2046 instead of 2166, and
Mhm.
the city's destroyed. Is that my theory coming true that they've now sped up the history? If you're coming from
Yeah.
2166, it would be considered history. So have they sped it up now?
Yeah. I mean, I
That
think
was
it's
really hard to get out.
definitely. No, I think no. I think
Okay.
you got it out pretty well. But I think it's definitely a possibility.
Mhm.
I like it a lot. I'm trying to think of. I mean, the other thing It could be as there was just some sort of crazy war that maybe happens in like 2020 or something
Where
that
we just
was
have been...
rapid, that we obviously haven't experienced. So,
Okay.
because really, technically, it's a blank slate. Because since our current shows are in 2016, since we've jumped into the future, they can kind of now do whatever they want within reason again,
Good
depending on
point.
how long the other shows run. Because if they make up some war that say starts in 2020 and destroys the city, I guess our team of heroes can go back and change it, and so then it never happens.
Okay.
So that we don't have to worry about it in Flash and Arrow. Ugh.
Yes, because they have now jumped ahead. Because you can I guess do whatever you want, change things in the future, and that's not going to happen or not going to matter because it's the future
Yeah.
and not the past. Yeah.
Yeah, so
All
I
right.
don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
Hmm.
If it, we'll see if it. I mean, because should it be tied into Vandal Savage? I guess probably to further the story.
Yeah.
But does it have to be? It doesn't. I don't know if it would be an interesting enough tangent to explore, if it would just be felt to be a filler episode.
Yeah,
And we've
maybe.
only
And
got 16, so
16 episodes, so maybe they don't have time for a filler episode.
probably not.
No.
So
Now, there was something that a lot of people pointed out, and I know you got excited about it. That's on the Palmer Tech building, it now said smoke,
it did. I thought that was kind of cool.
as in our Felicity smoke. So this was, what, 30 years after 2016.
Hmm.
Why would there be the smoke logo? Couple ideas. Maybe Felicity just simply changes the name because Ray did give her the company anyway.
Yeah, it's her company.
So maybe she just changes the name after a while. Or does it have something to do with Ray Palmer going back in time? Does he somehow affect his own timeline that he never has his empire in the future?
Hmm.
What do
I
you
don't
think?
know
What do
because
you...
he left in 2016, so and we haven't seen his past yet. Like he's not confronted himself in the past or seen a family member or anything like that. So
That's
I don't
true.
know if he could reorder his own timeline. And we've kind of seen that they're trying to keep those cemented. So like with Martin Stein, he went back and
Hmm.
we figured out that the tie into time travel made sense as his origin story. It was just a slightly different origin story.
Right. Right.
But the future outcome was still the same. So I don't know if Ray would actually be able to do that. I feel like Felicity was CEO, took over the company. It's her company, so she changed the name.
So it could just be a fun little thing, like one of those Easter egg things. It's just a fun thing.
Yeah, I think it was more of an Easter egg than anything
Maybe.
else.
All right.
But it was still really cool.
It was still really cool, and we obviously really liked it because we talked about it for a couple minutes.
I know.
But now the last exciting thing, because it just leads into so many possibilities and so many theories. They run into a Green Arrow, and what do you know? It is not Oliver Queen.
That was not Oliver Queen. That is a true statement.
By far and wide is not Oliver Queen.
Or anyone we know.
Not anybody we have seen, recognized, although the voice sounded the same, which was kind of eerie.
That was pretty funny. I wonder if it was just Stephen Amell dubbed over top.
Possibly. So, question. And actually, you know what? This takes us full circle right back to our opening idea that Legends does not have any mysteries. And what happens? We just came to one.
Oh yeah, we just found our mystery.
We just found our mystery.
Unless they answer it in the next episode.
Which they probably will. So
And
for now,
it's
it's
not
a
a
fun
mystery.
mystery. But all right, let's. I know there's some feedback about it in other
Yeah.
areas, but what do you think? Who is this Green Arrow? Let me hear
I
it.
had not a clue. I have no idea who this is. I was like, who are you? You are not Oliver. Like, what has happened? You're not the Green Arrow. But his costume was slightly different, so I don't know. I mean, is he really supposed to truly be like just a new version of the Green Arrow, or is he the Green Arrow and something has changed? I was very confused. I mean, 30 years later, I mean, really, Oliver can't really be running around still as the Green Arrow.
Well, no, I mean we do know that he is coming in a future episode because they're now ahead in the future, and there's been a lot of
True.
posts about with him with the full goatee and everything. So we do, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be next episode.
It must be, since we're in the future already.
Yeah, so that could be his new sidekick. It could be some of the theories that I saw is that it is Diggle and Lila's son. But they don't have a son right now. They have a daughter in current 2016. So do they have another kid? We don't know, but the timeline would be right. It is 30 years later, so maybe they do have another kid. That's a possibility. Or, yeah, it could just be his next, like Roy was. It could just be his next protege who's now taking up the mantle.
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, Oliver at this point's too, and he's got to be too old to still be doing all that crap. I mean, right?
Well,
the toll that takes on your body.
Yeah, exactly. And all the agility and jumping and running around, true. Maybe he just sits in the background and shoots his arrows from a distance because, you should still be able to keep that skill at a high level. But
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it was everyone got really excited about it and are just throwing theories like crazy about who that guy could possibly be. It was just exciting to see and neat to see. So whether it becomes a big deal or not, this is just one possible future storyline out of many. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it.
So what were you referring to? You said you have failed this city.
I wasn't really referring to anything. It just sort of popped into my head as we jumped into a very bad future for Star City.
For Star City. So, yeah.
You have failed this city.
Somebody definitely has.
I don't know who, but somebody has. That was just my final impression of the episode.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Guess what time it is?
Is it time for feedback?
It is time for feedback. And oh my god, you guys out there, whoever's listening, we are excited. Like, I am jumping for joy through the roof. I didn't realize how happy this would make me to get in actual feedback about our show and about Legends of Tomorrow and things that we discussed. And it was funny because it came in, we got a few emails and a voicemail, and I was ear to ear grinning today as this stuff was coming in. I could not believe it. This has made everything, what we've done up to this point, worth it, because me and Harley weren't sure if people were listening to us. We weren't sure if people were enjoying us or hating us. Like, we didn't know. And, we kept asking, please talk to us. But, I mean, we understand people are busy and have lives, and man, there's so many superhero TV shows now, so it's hard to keep up and listen to podcasts and watch the TV shows and send feedback for everybody. So we get that because we are on the same team as you there as well, because we also watch the TV shows and want to try to send in our feedback to those ones. So that's why we fully really appreciate feedback that we have gotten, and it has just made me happy and made us excited, and we get to finally share that.
Yes.
Starting now. So
time for feedback.
We need some kind of little
a little jingle.
A little jingle for that part. I'll find one. I'll come up with one.
Okay, you're in charge.
So our first feedback, we want to read an email from someone that is almost like family because she's been with us on the other podcast shows. So Kelly, Master Wordsmith, sent us something. Harley, why don't you read that out for us?
Yay, thanks, Kelly. I'm so excited that you are in.
Me too, because she always has fantastic emails. So
she does.
She's very very observant and very
meticulous.
I have no idea. Is a good one, yeah.
That's a good word, but
anyway, why don't you go ahead and tell us what Kelly had to say?
All right, so Kelly says, Rip needs to learn how to be a good leader and play chess. He has all these players and needs to use them. Didn't think it was cool to tell Sara she needed to kill Stein. We agree. Last week was Captain Cold episode, and this week was Firestorm, so probably next week will be Sara's. I need to have Palmer not be such a wimp, and with all that intelligence, why does his suit always malfunction? That is a valid question.
That is a good point.
That is a very good point. Continuing on, I'd like to take an episode or two without Vandal, and maybe let's get to know that time travel policeman. Sorry, I can't remember his name. His name is Chronos.
Mm-hmm. Chronos?
Yeah, and it looks like, I don't know if he was able to follow them, but we might possibly get him in the next episode in 2046 would be my guess.
Yeah, it's hard to say if he was able to follow them out of the crash landing, out of the
Yeah,
time.
he seems to be able to track them
Mm-hmm.
regardless, so he
Yeah.
might show up. Anyway, continuing on with Kelly's email. I can't wait to watch DCTV next week. First King Shark, then Vixen, and ending with Old Man Ollie. And you know what happens on Wednesdays? Wednesday's show will have to pack in on this future Ollie, aka Smoke Tower, not Queen Ink. And then she says, best line from the episode, not my first prison break. Good luck with the podcast. See you in the funny pages. Kelly, aka Master Wordsmith.
Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for sending that in and being part of our show with us. It means a lot to us. But yeah, I mean, we were responding a little bit as you went along. I totally agree with you about your first line there about Rip needs to learn how to be a good leader. I think he probably is and can be a good leader. It's just, I think the revenge on his mind and on his heart for his wife and son are kind of confusing him in a lot of ways. So I think I think the more time he spends in the leadership role, he will develop into a pretty strong leader, and they'll start to look up to him as the captain of the team for sure.
Yeah.
And she seems to be in line with us that each episode one character kind of stands out a little bit more from the rest as having the main part of the storyline. So we'll see if that continues on.
Yeah.
But definitely Ray Palmer. Not why does a suit always malfunction if he's Mr. Smarty Pants? Yeah.
I know. That's funny. Drives me crazy.
Anyway, yeah, next week is going to be fun. Can't wait to see all the TV shows and talk about them. And definitely, Kelly, I hope you come back and continue talking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Now, our next feedback. This one I had a lot of fun with because it is our first voicemail. And it came all the way from Australia, which is awesome. It's Mr. Jeremy in Melbourne, Australia. He sent us a voicemail and an email. The email basically is the typed out version of the voicemail. So we are going to play that for you guys because we are excited to have our very first voicemail. So I will play that right now. Are you ready?
Yeah.
G'day Flash and Harley Quinn and listeners. I thought I'd better get off my butt and send you some love, thanks and respect from down under. My name is Jeremy, and that's right, we can hear your podcast from all the way over here in Australia. Like you guys, I'm really enjoying this show. I enjoy how the tone is different to Arrow and Flash, and it's quickly becoming its own show with its own identity. It was great to see some characters gaining development and more depth each week. This week, we got to see Heatwave grow a conscience and rescue Ray, and we got to see Jax be a hero without his pyrotechnics. I'm still happy seeing Snart go outside Rip's plan to partially do his own thing. And the line of the night for me was Wentworth Miller as Snart saying, "This isn't my first prison break, you know." An instant favourite for me. But one quibble for me this week was how the show is all about not affecting the timeline. But apparently it was okay for a nuclear freaking bomb to go off in the 1980s Soviet Union's biggest and baddest jail, and somehow this is okay. Well, as long as the American cities are okay, I guess. But it is a great show, and so's your podcast. Great to hear that an RSS feed or iTunes listing is on its way. The work you're putting into prepping, performing and producing this show isn't going unnoticed. And I'll do what I can to get it downloaded by as many Aussies as I can. Again, much love and appreciation from us here in Australia, and please keep going with your hard work and dedication. We love it. This is from Jeremy in Melbourne, Australia.
Aw, Jeremy, we love that. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. And please keep calling back because I love your accent.
It is so cool, yes. He sounds like just such an amazing, friendly person.
He does.
I would love to be able to meet members of, whether it's Aero Squad or Central City, all around the world, because we all got to meet. I got to meet Harley in Atlanta, and and this is where that's led to. So it's just really cool. Jeremy, thank you so much for that voicemail and those kind words. Man, we appreciate that more than we can even say. But to respond to some of the things you said, let's see. It does, Legends of Tomorrow does differ from Arrow and Flash. You are right. It's very much finding its own identity. Where Arrow is kind of the darker storyline and Flash is more the lighthearted, faster moving show. Legends is I think it's really taken advantage of the time travel sci-fi fun adventure kind of way, and the whole what if
Mm-hmm.
idea. What if this happens, and what if we do this? How does it affect the future? And that's definitely where it's finding its groove. So it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
He also loved the scenes with Heatwave, showing a bit of a conscience. So I think everybody's picking up on that, and everybody's really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's nice to see.
But yeah, no, it was actually I liked his point about his quibble about the nuclear bomb going off.
That's
And
great.
that just seems to be okay as long as it's not an American city.
I know, right? That was pretty great. I didn't really think about that until after the fact, and I was like, that was a nuclear explosion in the middle of Russia.
It was.
People probably noticed.
And since you, Jeremy, you were happy to hear about our RSS feed and the iTunes thing, well, I hope this new podcast finds its way to you via those routes and you are satisfied and it works for you. Just as I hope everyone else is able to find us now.
And also, Jeremy, do you have a superhero name? Because if you don't, we're going to need to get you one. Because it's tradition. And if you've been on Air Squad in Central City, I can't believe you don't have one.
Then maybe we'll have to come up with one for him if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
or if he has one.
Right, and before I forget, I had responded to his email and I had asked him, I wanted him to explain to us so that we could share with everybody else how he sent in that voicemail, because I have a feeling, because we don't have the SpeakPipe widget and we're not officially on GSM, so we don't have access to those kind of things. And
right.
I did express earlier on in our shows that I was going to look into the Google phone number, but apparently that links to your personal cell phone number or your home phone number, and it's not that I don't trust everybody out there in our groups here. It's just I really don't want my cell phone number attached to this and being spread out across the world.
I can understand that.
So anyway, I asked Jeremy to explain how he did it, and his response was, I used their voice recorder on my 2-year-old Samsung Galaxy S phone to record an MP3 file, which I then emailed to the cybercastfan@gmail.com. Couldn't be any easier than that, really, he said. So
that is true.
There you go, easy. Guys. It's very, very simple. If you want to send us a voicemail and we love it, just use your phones. Record. Yeah. There is all kinds of apps, free ones that you can get to record your voice, and I think most phones nowadays have one built in it anyway.
Yeah, if you're on an iPhone, it's called the Voice Memo app. It's an innate phone on that it's an innate phone on the app. It's an innate app on the phone. So you have it. You just have to use it.
Yeah.
And it's really easy. It's how I send in my feedback for podcasts that I listen to. So.
Yep, same here. It allows me to go over the 1.5
exactly.
time limit.
That's how you send in your 45-minute voicemails, Martin.
Oh, we're at 45 minutes now.
Yeah, totally.
Actually, I sent Aero Squad an 8-minute one yesterday, so that's where I'm at.
Oh, officially. Did you really?
Yeah.
Is that your longest one?
No, I'm not sure what my longest one. We'll have to ask them, but yeah, I've hovered around the 10-minute mark before.
Okay. That's impressive.
But anyway, Jeremy, one last time, just thank you so much. That we loved hearing from you, and we appreciate it so much, especially for your kind words and encouragement and support.
Yes,
definitely.
Thank you so much.
But we have one more. We had an email from our friend, the Huntress Diana.
Yes.
I'll let you read that one, Harley.
I have to read them both. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I got to do the fun voice one. You can do the reading.
I see how this is going to work.
We'll switch next week.
I'm doing voicemails next week.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm just kidding. Okay. So
see what happens, people? You send in a voicemail and we're fighting over them.
Yeah, I know. That's because I have to read. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So the Huntress Diana writes in, hello, Wonder Twins.
I love that she used that. Cool.
I know. It's awesome. Hello.
Hello.
Her episode rating for Failsafe is 8 super neatly dressed Ciscos. Very nice.
I love that. You know what? We haven't even thought of using ratings or anything, so I love, Huntress, that you gave us our first one. That's funny.
That was great. Yeah. So she says, I'm just going to dive right in and hit what just pops off the top of my head. I know I won't be the first last to bring it up, but I loved the "this isn't my first prison break" line. I think we all did.
I think we all did. Yeah.
Regarding Jackson Martin, I still think that cutting your arm to communicate with your other half is a horrible way to communicate. It weirds me out every time. And why did Jax have Kendra do the cutting? Too squeamish, perhaps? God knows I would be. Also, I'm glad that Jax finally figured out that Martin was being so hard on him to protect him. Yay, I hate when they fight. Poor Ray. He was the official punching bag of this episode. I kind of winced when Mick called him the Great Pinata. I just hope that after all this, Ray is a little bit wiser.
Yeah, I will agree with you there, Huntress. I was feeling bad for Ray. He was getting pounded this episode.
Yes, he
Man.
was.
Yeah.
It was bad. But Sara and Leonard, it almost seems like they, the writers, are trying a bit too hard to create something between these two. It feels too forced. I'm not sure if I'm alone in this, but it really bugs me. I don't know that if I feel that it's forced, but I do feel as if they're trying to do something with it. I don't know that it's going to go anywhere, though. She continues, Vostok is a Vandal Savage fanatic to the utmost degree. Wow.
That's his name.
What?
Is Vostok the female scientist or the...
Yeah,
Okay.
Valentina Vostok.
There you go.
Yeah, wow, seeing her merge with Martin to become the Soviet Firestorm was crazy. The effects were cool, and I found it interesting that when Jax managed to get Martin out, then she continued to burn and go into full meltdown. Amazing. Just amazing.
It really was.
That's cool. Chronos needs to be gone for more than one episode at a time. Having him responsible for our team getting pushed out of time is just getting irritating. That's pretty funny. So now we're in Star City 2046. Felicity Smoke has her name all over the old Palmer Tech building. The rest of the city is a war zone, and we're introduced to a new Archer. There's hints that we'll see an older Oliver, but man, what else will we see? I can't wait. Until next week, the Huntress Diana. I can't wait.
We're right with you there. I can't wait either. That was... What a way to end an episode. Leave us hanging on a future... a vision of the future like that. And a Green Arrow we don't know. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it in general. I think it's going to be a good episode.
Yeah. But Huntress Diana, thank you as well so much for sending in an email. I know you have helped us before by linking our show page on the other Facebook pages. So we really, really were happy to hear from you, and I hope we hear from you again. That was very fun. Thank you.
Thanks.
And that is it for this one, my dear friend Harley. We have covered our feedback, and so on that note, just to remind everybody how they can get in touch with us, there is our Twitter handle @Cybercast. We will have a new Facebook page titled Tomorrow's Legends, which we'll invite you all to, and we'll post links on CCU and Aero Squad so you can find it very easily. So come join that page, please, and let's start some discussions and a community on the Facebook page. There is also our regular email address, cybercastfan@gmail.com. The Libsyn website, which is hosting our audio files, there is a comment section under each episode in there, and I believe that is... Oh yeah, and of course the voicemails, which, God, we can't forget those because we love those.
I know. Send us more voicemails because next week Martin has to read. Actually, send us more emails because next week Martin has to read. Just kidding.
Send away. I will read them word for word, and that's kind of what we were talking about. We want right now. I just want to include everything, every little tidbit of feedback we get. I'm going to include. We're going to read it from top to bottom.
Yeah. If we start getting volumes of information, we'll find a way to scale it back. But for now, it's very manageable. So
yeah. But again, just thank you to everyone that contributed. That was fantastic. We loved it. Well, Harley, this was awesome. I am excited to kick this off, officially launched, and here we go. Now the ride begins.
I know. It's exciting.
So thank you, everybody, once again. Until next week, this is The Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
We're out of here.
See ya.